Hey, it's Sam from Sugar Spun Run, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make turtle brownies. This is a fun, super decadent recipe. We're going to be making everything from scratch, starting with our brownie mix. I'm also going to be showing you how I make my homemade caramel sauce. We'll be topping everything off with nuts, chocolate, and sea salt. I think you're going to love it, so let's get started by preheating our oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. So to make the brownie batter, you're going to need 1 1/4 cups of granulated sugar, 2/3 cup of all-purpose flour, and a 1/2 cup of natural cocoa powder. We're also going to add just 1/8 teaspoon of baking powder. Just a little bit gives the brownies just a tiny bit of lift, which I really think works well here. And we're going to use 1/2 teaspoon of table salt as well. We'll whisk everything together so this is nicely combined. Now this recipe is actually a little bit different than my classic and favorite brownie recipe because that one is a very decadent, standalone, fudgy, thick brownie recipe. And I preferred something a little bit thinner and something a little bit less intense to pair with the caramel and the chocolate and the nuts. So I think this one works really well here. And for a standalone, see my easy brownies from scratch is what I call them. Both great brownies. All right, once that's nicely combined, we'll add 1/2 cup of melted unsalted butter. You know, we don't waste butter around here, so make sure all of that goes in there. We're also going to add 2 large eggs. Just crack these in a separate bowl. One. Let's see if I can do it one-handed. I can already tell this isn't gonna go well. Oh, just a little shell in there. It's 2 eggs. And I do like to use room temperature eggs just so everything combines nicely. We'll also add a teaspoon of vanilla extract. We'll stir everything together till well combined. And next I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of milk chocolate chips. Now, normally I stick to semi-sweet chips, but traditionally turtle candies are made with a milk chocolate, so I wanted to go with that milk chocolate theme here as well. So you'll see milk chocolate chips in the brownie batter, and that's also the kind of chocolate we'll be drizzling on top of the brownies. All right, so we're going to be baking today's recipe in a 9x9 pan. I've lined mine with parchment paper, which makes for easier cleanup. Also, if you want to remove these brownies from the pan and cut them, this is going to be your best bet because you will have handles to lift them out. Only try that when the brownies are completely cooled though, otherwise you'll have a mess on your hands. This brownie batter comes together so quickly, which is a big plus, especially since we'll be making the caramel from scratch, which can take a little bit more time. Oh, the downside of parchment paper, it means that a thick batter like this one is a little bit more difficult to work into the pan, but the trade-off is usually worth it for me. You do want to spread this into an even layer. And then these are off to the center rack of our 350 degree Fahrenheit preheated oven, where they're going to need to cook for about 24 minutes. When they're finished baking, I always like to use the toothpick test. A toothpick inserted in the center should come out clean, or with moist, fudgy crumbs, but not wet batter. So while the brownies are cooling is when I will usually make my caramel sauce. I do recommend using my homemade caramel sauce here. I shared it a while ago. I prefer this to store-bought, though you could probably use that in a pinch. It might be a little bit more runny. This happens on the stovetop, comes together really quickly. Grab yourself a small saucepan, and in this we're going to combine 1 cup of granulated sugar with a 1/4 cup of water. I also like to use 2 tablespoons of corn syrup, which is going to help give us the proper consistency. Will also help inhibit, prevent any sugar crystals from forming. This is just a light corn syrup. We're also going to add some salt here. Now, I like to add some sea salt on top of the brownies as well, but I do want to flavor the caramel as well. Just use a heaping 1/4 teaspoon. So I'll turn my stovetop heat to medium-low. Don't turn it up too high. And I'm just going to stir occasionally until the sugar is completely dissolved. Now, while I'm doing this, if I notice any sugar crystals forming on the side, I'm just going to take my pastry brush and dip it in some water, and I'm just going to sweep those sugar crystals down. This is going to help keep me from having a grainy caramel sauce. When you're making caramel, it's so important that you don't turn the heat up too high. You don't want it bubbling prematurely because what you'll do is your sugars won't dissolve properly and you could end up burning your caramel. With caramel, it's really important to be patient, so just don't turn up your heat too high. All right, once the sugar is dissolved, I'm turning the stovetop heat to medium or just a notch below medium. I'm going to add my candy thermometer, and I'm going to cook this without stirring it, but I'm going to keep a close eye on it until it begins to turn caramel in color. This can take 10-15 minutes, even longer, depending on your precise heat. But I do really recommend a candy thermometer because then you can just watch based off the temperature, and we're looking for a temperature of 340 to 345 degrees Fahrenheit. Now you don't want your heat too high. I actually still have my heat closer to low than medium just because how quickly it was starting to boil. So you really need to go based off of your own stovetop and just sort of pay attention to your caramel. The worst thing you can do is turn your heat up too high or it's going to burn. Now while I'm cooking this, I don't want to stir at this point, but if I'm worried things are browning unevenly, I might gently swirl the pan a little bit just to keep things from cooking too fast on the bottom and not on top. Now while this is cooking, I like to make sure I have my other ingredients that I need measured out. We will be using 1/4 cup of heavy cream today, along with 3 tablespoons of unsalted butter. I've cut these into 3 pieces, that way they're going to soften a little bit. We're also going to be adding 1½ teaspoons of vanilla extract. Now, as soon as your caramel has reached temperature, we're going to remove this from heat and we're going to immediately add the cream. Be careful, you don't want to burn yourself. We're going to stir this in until it's completely combined. So I do pour that in gradually because we do, as you can see, get a lot of bubbling. So once the cream's incorporated, we're going to add the butter, just 1 piece at a time. So the caramel sauce is really, really thin while it's hot, but it's going to cool and thicken pretty quickly. I'll usually let it sit in the pan for like 5 minutes or so and stir occasionally, and then I will pour it over my brownies. And if you were using store-bought sauce, you would need about 1 cup of this. But again, I have not tried this using a store-bought caramel sauce. I would worry it wouldn't be thick enough, which would just make the turtle brownies a little more messy to eat. This should do a pretty good job spreading out on its own, but I'm gonna help it along a little bit. So we want caramel everywhere. All right, while the caramel is still warm, we're going to add our nuts. I like to use 3/4 cup of pecans here, and I'm just going to break them up a little bit. Oh, break my bag open too. Try to be a little more dignified with your pecan cracking than I am. And I'll scatter these over, because while the caramel is still warm, it's just going to help them stick better. All right, we have one more component, and that is a milk chocolate drizzle I like to add over the brownies. You'll need 1/2 cup of milk chocolate chips, add 2 tablespoons of heavy cream. And I do prefer to melt the chocolate with cream rather than just melt the chocolate and drizzle it over. I just prefer the end result that way. I think it just makes a more decadent, more turtle brownie. So that's my preference. I'll heat it for 25 seconds in the microwave and I'll stir it really well. Now, if it's not completely smooth after 25 seconds, mine is, but if yours isn't, return it to the microwave in 5 to 10 second intervals, stirring really well in between until it's completely smooth. Right now we'll just drizzle this over our brownies. You can be as uniform or as irreverent as you choose. Just go for a messy drizzle. That will be my piece. That giant glob of chocolate. Oh my gosh, that looks so good. I have to go for my glucose test in the morning, so we'll see how the turtle brownies go with that. And the final touch is a sprinkling of flaky sea salt, which really brings out the flavor in these brownies. Oh, it's so good. All right, everything's still really warm here, so if you cut into it now, it's just going to make a total mess. I don't know how warm the caramel is. You could even potentially burn yourself. So I'm going to let this cool completely before I dig in. I also want to note that these bars, they're loaded with caramel, so they are pretty messy. I recommend cutting the slices as you go. So don't cut it all and take everything out. The caramel is going to start to spill over the edges a little bit. It's still edible, it's just a little bit messy. Now, once everything's cooled, you'll actually be able to lift the brownies right out of the pan, but usually I'll cut a couple squares and then pop them back in the pan just for storage. Let's go ahead and dig in. These are really decadent, so you don't need like a huge slice, but I won't judge you if you cut yourself one anyway. They smell so good. Oh yeah. Hopefully on camera you can see these incredible layers. You've got the brownie, the caramel, the topping. If you try this one, leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. I really do always love hearing from you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is so good.